Today we're working on the underframe, and this is the main part of the underframe. We're going to bend it up and then solder some of these parts together. We have two rails along each side that we have to bend up vertically, and this end's going to bend down to form the pilot, and we're going to attach parts to it. We have some specialized pliers and so on for doing our bends. This pair of pliers is called a wuzzer, and they're for forming different shapes of metal and so on. This one happens to be triangular cross section and flat on the bottom, so it's hopefully I can do this. Usually I have a big bender that I do this. I might use this small vise I have here to
get you started.
This. Yeah, just
now where would you get a wuzzer?
Those are, I got those from Micromark, the tool manufacturer, over the last month or so. It's a new tool they have in, so they had some interesting shapes. So I'm just going to try to bend this carefully. There's actually etched fold lines along it.
So you're just putting it in the vise and gently moving your way across the
back and forth to not put any big creases in.
Right.
And hopefully it'll be a nice 90-degree bend by the time we're done. And the tabs will be vertical. Use some fingers in here to get that as well.
That looks pretty straight.
Thing is just to do it in small increments and then keep everything nice and straight. We'll do this other side here.
My understanding, and I don't do a lot with brass, is that you really just want to bend in one direction. You don't want to bend it back too many times because they can fracture.
Yeah, that's right. It work hardens and it'll fracture along that line if you bend it back and forth too many times. If you need to, sometimes you can heat it up and anneal that part.
Right.
So that would soften it up again. But brass, because it includes copper, it work hardens as you use it, so it will get more brittle as you're working it. So you want to plan your moves and bend it once, and hopefully not have to bend it back and forth too many times. So.
Right.
And then next part is the ends here. But before we get to that, we have some parts here that we're going to apply solder to, and that's called tinning. Once you apply the solder to both parts, it makes it easier to melt the solder so it sticks to itself rather than having to heat up the brass to temperature. So again, with our rosin, we have this part here is going to have metal on it, these little tabs here.
You have to get them very smooth. You don't want a blob of solder on there. Because otherwise, I guess when they go together, you'd have a bump or a...
That's why we're just using a very small bit of solder. So just on the tip of your iron.
Now you've cleaned that tip and prepared it so that the solder will stick to it or adhere to it very quickly.
So first of all, you'll see where we put the rosin here, a puddle. You have to heat that up. The solder kind of blobs at first, but as you heat more of the piece up, the solder will flow to where you want it to go. So that's a nice thin application of solder on that piece.
Okay.
Because the rosin is in alcohol, it evaporates fairly quickly, and you're just left with the rosin on it. So sometimes you need to put a little bit more liquid on. We go to the tabs here.
And just put a little dot on each tab. And
yeah. Usually when I'm doing this too, I rest my hands against something so they're not shaking all over the place.
And this is where you have to do is a little thought and pre-planning to make sure you understand how the model goes together.
Yeah.